Welcome back to Scene Caribbean News. It's now time to go in depth. On Monday, Trinidad and Tobago's oilfield workers trade union OWTU averted the shutdown of the state-owned oil refinery Petrotrin by agreeing to an interim 5% wage increase for the 2011 to 2014 period. According to the union, the back pay should be reflected in workers' salaries as early as the end of this month. However, numerous business interests are rubbishing the claims that the monies can be generated by solely increasing productivity at the company's plants. To discuss this matter, we are now joined by Trinidadian political analyst Dr. MAUKESH BASDEO. Good evening and welcome, Dr. BASDEO.
Good evening to all the listeners and viewers.
Thank you so much. Now, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley addressed the nation on the Petrotrin matter on Wednesday night. How would you rate his presentation?
Well, what has happened, the response after last night's address to the nation, a lot of people were saying that, Dr. Rowley actually diagnosed the problem very well. He made it clear what were some of the problems affecting Petrotrin as one of the main state enterprises and one of the largest earner of foreign currency and also payment of taxes in Trinidad and Tobago. But somehow a lot of persons felt that he didn't go into detail as to some of the measures that could remedy the problem. Although he pointed in direction that there will be studies that will be done. However, I think most of the population is looking forward to a plan of action following the decision to grant the workers at Petrotrin a 5% increase.
Now, initially, the government was adamant that they could not afford more than the 0.000 wage percent they offered. Based on the debts listed by Dr. Rowley, why do you think they agreed to 5%?
Well, that is very interesting that the Dr. Rowley would announce, the announcement we made of 5% because of last week, he had said that the company could not afford a 1% increase. It's interesting that how they're going to manage with a 5% increase. Although Dr. Rowley did identify that there would be sort of measures to actually deal with the cost-cutting measures that have to be put in place at the company to actually deal with these measures, because the company is facing a wage bill of approximately $81 million TT a year, and that would be for the next 3 years. And the company is still having to settle for another round of negotiation for the period 14-17. So this still has to come to some point in some point in the future, possibly this year or possibly next year.
Now, the OWTU has reiterated that this is an interim agreement and that they expect the number to increase from 5% when parties meet again on February 28. Is that a logical stance, considering that Petrotrin is operating at a loss?
It is operating at a loss given the price of the commodity on the world market, but you're quite correct that there is an interim measure of 5% which will cover the first year and the second year of the triennium. So there's still the third year to negotiate. So the possibility is that we may see that 5% increase into somewhere in the vicinity of, I don't know where it will go, 1%, could add 1% on the 5, or it could go higher up. So it's interesting to see what will be the final figure for the Petrotrin. Although the union did tell its workers that they will see the increase in the wages as of their February salary, there's still some discussion regarding the payment of the back pay, which is hinged on to what they call the profitability of the company. And that could take possibly a year or 2 years before the company can actually show levels of productivity or profitability, which is tied to what they call efficiency and effectiveness.
There have been suggestions that the privatization of Petrotrin is the only way forward. What are your thoughts?
I think the privatization may not be the way forward, but the union has basically sat down and looked at the issue of efficiency and effectiveness and to see where that the workers can contribute to the profitability. So there are other plans other than privatization as a profit-sharing initiative with the workers that can see the company basically showing some sign of profitability in a year or two. But the problem really stems from a lot of bad decisions that were made in a number of years ago that would see Petrotrin having to pay a bond issue in 2019 of close to $850 million. Those bad management decisions in the past is what is hurting the company today.
Now, following Monday's marathon meeting, the issue of Petrotrin's ineffective operations remains a concern. Anthony Roger, president of the OWTU, says the president of Petrotrin needs to go, while Petrotrin president Fitzroy Harewood says his value is apparent. Should he stay or should he go?
Well, I think that will be the decision of the Prime Minister, the corporate soul, to make a decision whether the current president or the chair and the board should be replaced at this point in time. Because what you're looking for is that whatever the final decision that comes out in February, things will have to be put in place as to how we can actually reform the company, engage in cost-cutting measures. And anytime we talk about cost-cutting measures, anyone can point from an economic standpoint. Once I mention cost-cutting, the first thing that comes to mind is where are you going to cut the costs? And usually it comes in the form of, let's say, job loss in this context.
Now, in speaking to a number of financial analysts, there is still some confusion surrounding how the back pay will be distributed with immediate effect. Is it that Petrotrin will be tapping into reserve cash, or will the government ultimately have to find the cash for this back pay?
Well, that's what is important here. What is going to happen is that the workers are going to enjoy the increase in the wages, not the back pay. The back pay is basically pegged on the company's profitability, which could be within a year or 2 years' time. So the workers will not be able to actually get the back pay, but will see in their February salary the increase of the 5% or whatever the final decision in February. That will be reflected in their pay package.
Now, as you just mentioned, the OWTU, Petrotrin, and the Labour Ministry will be meeting again at the end of February. OWTU President Ansel Roger says strike action is off the table, but if the government does not meet their demands, how likely is it that a strike could take place?
Well, the government and the government, Petrotrin, the government and the union had actually formed some agreement that put the strike is off the table. That's it. But it's what is going to come about as a result of that final decision in February. What will be the final take of this round of negotiation? We have to still bear in mind there is still a period 14 to 17 that is outstanding, and the union will have to take a position whether it is going to engage in negotiation or conciliatory talks to bring to closure that current period of negotiations.
Now, for many persons who aren't aware of the situation in Trinidad and Tobago right now, can you paint a brief image for us of what could likely be the result of this strike should happen?
If the strike were to take place, well, the workers did walk off on Monday, but the possibility of a strike could have on the country itself is that whether or not the ability to actually put in place the contingency measures, although the government and the company had said there were contingency measures in place, is whether or not the traveling public, the driving public, and other stakeholders would have been able to actually receive the necessary fuel that was needed to actually the economy to actually go on. The Prime Minister had said that had the strike actually lasted for the 90-day period, that the company would stand to lose over $500 million in revenue. And that would have been the economic cost to Trinidad and Tobago. But if we look at it in the other aspect, it would have affected the day-to-day life of the population as you go into the weeks of such a strike.
Is it possible that the government will stick to its 000 wage offer?
Well, we're yet to see that the other trade unions would have matters coming up this year, and they will be basically engaging their employer for possible wage increases. We're yet to see what is going to happen with the other trade unions as we move into the months of this year.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. BASDEO.
Thank you so much.
We were in discussions with political analyst Dr. MAUKESH BASDEO on the strike threat and subsequent negotiations between the OWTU and Petrotrin, as well as the ricocheting effects on the Trinidad Republic.